scream no one reported. Hey, night listener. Tonight, we enter the shadows. The rain hasn't stopped in hours. It taps the windows like fingers drumming out a warning, or maybe an invitation. Somewhere beneath the hum of the city, a clock ticks louder than it should. You sit in a room where the air feels older than the walls, where the shadows move just slightly wrong. A neon sign blinks red outside open, though the shop has been closed for weeks. If the story found you, maybe it's because you've been followed too. So, before we vanish into this mystery, like the video and subscribe only if you can handle the truth buried beneath the lies. Tell me where you're listening from, and more importantly, are you here for the truth, the thrill, or the justice? Now lock your doors, take a deep breath, and follow me into the dark. It starts with a scream, not the cinematic kind. No glass-shattering soprano or bloody crescendo. This one is short, cut off, real. You're walking home through the side alley behind 52nd, the one with the slanted fence and the bad lighting. You always take this shortcut. You tell yourself it's just 5 minutes faster. You hear it right as you pass the dumpster, a sharp gasp, strangled by a hand or something worse. Then nothing, just your footsteps again. Too loud now. You stop, listen. The rain muffles everything except your own heart. You call the police. You do it out of instinct, right? They don't find anything. Not that night, not the next. And the neighbors, they say they hear things like that all the time. It's the wind, one says, lighting a cigarette, or cats fighting. You know better. That sound didn't come from a cat. Still, you move on. Try to forget. But you can't. Not after she shows up. She walks into the precinct 2 days later, so calm it's unsettling. No lawyer, no emotion, just a sentence. I killed someone. He deserved it. She gives an address, the one you were near, the one with the scream. You're not a cop, but you're pulled in because you know something's wrong, not just with her, but with what she knows. Her statement has details that weren't released. The direction of the wound, the color of the victim's socks, the candle on the windowsill. You sit in the observation room, watching her on the other side of the glass. She doesn't look like a killer. But then, you think, what does a killer look like? You don't ask why she did it. She tells you anyway. He was hollow. She says, there was nothing behind his eyes. Not really. You feel your stomach turn, because that's exactly what someone once said about you. That's the first moment your hands start to shake. You tell yourself it's the cold, or the caffeine, but maybe, just maybe, it's something older, something buried. A detective tosses a folder onto the table in front of you. Victim's name is Simon Roth. Lawyer, no priors, found in his apartment, single stab wound. No sign of struggle. You open the file. That's when you see it. The last photo taken of the victim is printed on glossy paper. Blurred background, but there's no mistaking it. You're standing in it, at the edge of the frame, looking straight into the lens. You don't remember this photo being taken. The detective sees your reaction. He mistakes it for shock. Yeah, freaky. Right, he says. They think it was taken seconds before the murder. You nod, slowly. Pretend you're absorbing it like a normal person. But inside, everything cracks open. You knew, but pretended you didn't. Everyone lies, especially the quiet ones. And it was never about the truth. It was about control. The scream returns to you then, not as sound, but as a question. Why didn't you run when you had the chance? Her confession was too calm. You watch the recording again. The interrogation room is colorless, the kind of sterile gray that makes blood feel brighter and guilt feel measured. She's seated with her hands folded, not cuffed, That alone tells you something's off. She isn't nervous. She's orchestrating this. You rewind to the start. Her voice is soft, deliberate. I killed Simon Roth, she says again, because he made people disappear. Just not in the way you think. You pause the video, not in the way you think. There's a tick behind your eyes now, like a migraine forming. You know that tone, that sly implication. It's the voice of someone who wants to be misunderstood because the real meaning is poison, because someone once told you things in that same tone years ago, and you pretended not to understand. You play the tape again. He hurt people, she continues, fingers resting gently on the steel table, not with fists, with influence, with things he didn't say. He was good at erasing the truth. Do you mean lies, the detective had asked. No, he never lied. That's the worst part. He told the truth, but only when it suited him. That's more dangerous than lying. You flinch, because that sounds exactly like something you used to believe back in your apartment. You try to sleep. You don't. The rain's stopped, but the silence is worse. The city outside your window feels paused, like someone hit mute on the world. The air smells like ozone and burnt paper. Your reflection in the window twitches when you don't. You start sorting through old boxes. You're looking for nothing. You find everything in one folder, marked case notes. You find your old handwriting. A name, Simon Roth. It hits like ice water. You'd interviewed him once, 5 years ago. Civil suit, sexual misconduct accusations that went nowhere. No conviction, no justice, just silence. You remember the woman who brought the case? Barely. She cried in a way that didn't make noise. You'd closed the file after a week, convinced she was lying. You told yourself she was confused, that you were protecting the system. And now, Simon's dead. You whisper the name, Simon Roth, and in your mouth, it tastes like a trigger. Back in the precinct, she won't stop talking. But the things she says, Simon never took trophies. She says he didn't need to. He took certainty. Certainty. He made people unsure of their own memories. He was surgical with doubt. You glance at the two-way mirror, feel the chill behind it. Someone's watching, maybe more than one someone. You adjust your tie. You don't wear ties anymore. On the desk beside you is a key, small, brass, from an evidence bag. Tag says, unknown origin found under body. You pick it up, familiar weight, almost comforting, until you flip it over and see the engraving. C5 basement. C5 was your old archive room, the one you locked up and never went back to. You told people it was flooding. It never was. You swallow hard. Think about that room, about the things in it, about the glove. You knew, but pretended you didn't. What if you've been the suspect all along? A photo, a key, a name you buried, now unburied. It was never about the confession. It was about how calm she was saying it. Because you don't get that calm without planning, or without knowing someone like you will be watching the tape years later and start to remember everything you were told to forget. The past doesn't knock, it picks the lock. And the worst part is, you're the one who gave it the key. The photo that shouldn't exist. You return to the photograph. It's sitting on your desk again, though you're sure you left it in the drawer. Or maybe you didn't. Maybe it's always been there watching. The frame shows Simon Roth smiling. Not the kind of smile people wear when they're happy, but the kind they wear when they're winning. Behind him, blurry and half out of frame, is you. Your head slightly tilted, eyes dead center. You try to tell yourself it's a coincidence. Maybe someone doctored the image. AI can do things now. Deep fakes, composites. But no matter how long you stare at it, one thing won't change. You remember that coat. You remember the scar on your left knuckle, visible just under your sleeve. You remember standing there, but not why. The clock on your wall ticks once, louder than it should. You flinch. You flip the photo over. There's handwriting on the back, in looping script. One of you forgot. The other never did. The pen bleeds into the paper like it was written while the ink was still wet with grief. Your phone buzzes. Unknown number. Just a text. The photo is real. You took it. Before everything. Your heart stutters. Who's sending this? You scroll through old contacts, but the number doesn't match anyone. Then you see the timestamp on the photo, dated 3 weeks before Simon Roth's death. You weren't even in the city 3 weeks ago, were you? You check your calendar, flights, meetings, things to ground yourself. But there's a 3-day gap, blank, unaccounted for. Just a line that says, personal. You don't remember writing that. On impulse, you head to your storage unit, C5 basement. The brass key clicks with a satisfying weight that makes your stomach churn. The elevator hums as it descends, each floor colder than the last. The hallway down there smells of bleach and dust. Lights flicker. Of course they do. You unlock the door. The room is exactly as you left it, except for one thing. A single photo is pinned to the corkboard. It's the same image of you and Roth, but this one has been burned around the edges. The flame stopped just short of your face, like it wanted you to see yourself again, like it wanted to leave you intact. You tear it down, hand shaking. Then you see the envelope on the floor, unmarked, inside another photograph. But this time, Roth isn't smiling. He's sprawled on the floor, blood pooling beneath him, and in the reflection of the TV screen behind him, your face, looking down, eyes wide, not in fear, not even in shock. In recognition, you stumble back, drop the photo. You knew, but pretended you didn't. Everyone lies, especially the quiet ones. It was never about the truth. It was about control. And suddenly, a memory presses against your skull like a hand from beneath the ice. Not a full scene, just a glimpse. Roth handing you something, an envelope, a voice. If it ever comes back to me, you know what to do. But what was it? What were you supposed to do? You close your eyes, try to breathe, and hear the voice again. This time from behind you. You always took the pictures, but you never wanted to be in them. You spin. No one's there, but the door clicks shut, and you realize you didn't leave it open. A victim without a past. The photo still trembles in your hands. The second one, the one with you reflected in the screen beside Simon's lifeless body. The camera captured more than a moment. It captured implication. You walk to the table in the center of the basement. Open the drawer. Files, old case notes, interview transcripts, some yellowing, some still pristine, like they were never really read. You're looking for something specific, anything on Simon Roth, but you find nothing. No client file, no intake form, no witness statement, just one sticky note with the initials S.R. and a scribbled sentence. Do not pursue no trail. You feel it again, familiar, foreign, the sensation that someone else has edited your memory, that your mind is a crime scene and the body has already been removed. Back upstairs, you open your laptop and search for Simon Roth's digital footprint. You expect a lawyer's legacy press releases, court appearances, LinkedIn profiles, maybe even a self-important TED Talk. You find almost nothing. There's a mention of a law firm, Anders and Vale, but the page is dead. An archived page lists him briefly as a junior associate from 2011 to 2020. After that, nothing. No social media, no home listings, no birth certificate, no arrest record, no obituary. It's as if Simon Roth didn't exist before he died. You stare at the screen, numb. Then your email pings. Anonymous again. Subject line still looking for his past. Attached a birth certificate. Faked. You know the signs, font mismatches. Pixel drag. A seal that glows wrong under image inspection. Below it a message. You're looking in the wrong direction. He wasn't born. He was placed. Your head throbs. You slam the laptop shut. You knew, but pretended you didn't. You try something different. You call a contact at City Records, ask for a private trace. You don't give Roth's name. You give his last known address instead. Your contact pauses. That unit's never been occupied. She says, it's on the books, but it's storage, not residential. You're sure I'm looking at the lease files? No tenant, just a recurring payment from a third-party trust. You hang up. The room suddenly feels off balance, as if the furniture has shifted half an inch when you weren't looking. You stand too fast. The walls tilt for just a second before straightening again. Then something clicks behind your ear. Not a sound. Exactly. A memory. You were in that unit once. Briefly. Dark walls. No bed. No kitchen. Just rows of filing cabinets, bolted to the floor. And on the cabinet drawers, names you half recognized, victims' witnesses, or something else. You reach for your notebook and jot them down as they surface from the dark. G, Larry, M, Henders, C, Waltor. You underline C, Waltor. It sparks a name, not Roth's, hers, the woman who confessed. She never gave a name, but you heard that alias before once, in a report that vanished. She wasn't the suspect. She was the witness, a whistleblower. You pull the photo from your coat pocket again. This time you see it differently, not the way you did before. She's not the killer. She's the warning. You suddenly remember a conversation a decade ago, a closed-door meeting. One sentence sticks in your mind. If it ever comes out, deny everything. Make the victim look unstable. You remember who said it. You remember who agreed. Everyone lies, especially the quiet ones. And it was never about the truth. It was about control. Then your phone vibrates. Another message. No number. You're getting warmer. But be careful. Some ghosts bite back. And attached a single image. A photo of your face, sleeping, taken last night. The knife was never found. You drop the phone, not out of fear, but because your hand refuses to hold it anymore. The image of yourself asleep, captured in the grainy low light of your bedroom, pulses in your mind. The camera angle wasn't from the window. It was from inside the room. You lock every door. You check under the bed. You sweep the closet with your flashlight. Nothing. But you know better. Someone was here, and they wanted you to know it. Back at the precinct, the murder file on Simon Roth is thin, too thin. Cause of death, single stab wound to the abdomen, angled upward, perforating the liver. Clean entry, no defensive wounds. The report notes the absence of a weapon. That's when it hits you, the calmness in her voice during the confession. She described the exact wound with surgical detail before the autopsy report was even finished. You ask the detective on duty, was the knife ever found? He shakes his head. Nope, but we know it wasn't a kitchen knife. No serration. Blade was too thin. Could have been a stiletto. You glance down at your briefcase. Your mind flashes to a memory 2 years ago during a legal workshop. A man showing off a sleek Italian stiletto knife. For historical curiosity, you admired it. You bought one the next day. It went missing 6 months ago. Your breath catches. That knife had a serial number engraved along the hilt. You wrote it down just in case. You pull up your personal files, scroll through your old receipts. There it is. Serial number 9XK347. You freeze because it's written on the evidence log under unidentified blade impression on the victim's rib bone. 9XK347. You close the file. Hard. You knew, but pretended you didn't. You walk to the forensics lab. Pretend you're just passing through. You glance around. Empty, except for a single drawer labeled unresolved, locked. You slide your ID. Access granted. Inside is a plastic evidence sleeve. No knife, just a mold of the wound. And a pair of black leather gloves. One glove. The other is missing. You reach for it. Something about the stitching, it's custom. You remember ordering them online. Expensive. A birthday gift for yourself. You still have one glove. It's in your apartment drawer. You touch the one in the evidence sleeve. It's a match. You tell yourself it's a coincidence. They make thousands of gloves like that. You tell yourself a lot of things, but your hand is sweating and your mouth is dry because someone is digging into your life with surgical precision, not to expose you, not yet, but to wake you up. To what? To a memory that begins bleeding through again. The stiletto in your hand. Wrath slumped on the ground. A whisper from someone behind you. This is the only justice left, and the distinct, horrifying clarity that you said nothing in protest. You see her again, the woman, standing over Roth's body, not panicked, not triumphant, just done. And you, taking the photo, you thought you were documenting something, but maybe you were participating. You return to your apartment, open the drawer. The glove is gone. In its place is a note. People forget things on purpose. You taught me that. And it's signed C.V. You whisper the name, C. Walter. Your reflection in the mirror behind you mouths the name back, but its timing is just a little too late. Your alibi has holes. You start with the calendar. That missing block of time, those 3 days you supposedly took off for personal reasons. You stare at it, willing it to fill itself in. But memory doesn't work like that. It's not a drawer you open. It's a locked room that refuses your key. You pull out your phone and open your GPS history. Most of it's intact commutes, grocery stops, late-night coffee runs. Then, right in the middle of the missing days, nothing. Just a gray blank. No pings, no movement. As if the phone had been off, or somewhere it couldn't track you. You think back. Did you shut it off? Did you leave town? Or did someone else carry it while you stayed behind? You check your credit card transactions. Gas station, pharmacy, diner normal enough. But you don't remember that diner. It's out near the river. You haven't been there in years. Yet there's a receipt, 314er, black coffee, single slice of pie. It's signed. Thanks. V. Walter. You print the receipt. On the back, scrawled in ink, he remembered the pie. I remembered the knife. Your fingers twitch. You throw on your coat and head to the diner. It's exactly how you remember it. A relic. Red boots with duct tape seats. A jukebox that hasn't worked since the Bush administration. You sit at the counter. The waitress approaches. With a look of familiarity, you don't return. Haven't seen you since. She pauses. Well, since that night. You freeze. What night? She tilts her head. You don't remember. You were with that woman. Dark hair. Said her name was Claire or Clara or something. Her brow furrows. You didn't look so good. Like you were sleepwalking. Sleepwalking? You think about the memory of Roth slumped on the ground, the knife in your hand, the weightlessness of your limbs, like a dream, or someone else's body. You say, "Did I say anything weird?" She smirks. You said something like, "He's got it coming." Then she laughed. A sad laugh. Not the funny kind. You nod, numbly. You knew, but pretended you didn't. Outside, it's raining again. The kind of rain that feels staged too cinematic. You walk to your car, but something catches your eye in the window of the bookstore across the street. A display of true crime novels, front and center. Silence before the stab. The Roth confession. You walk in, ask the clerk when it arrived. Not for sale yet. He says, "It's a pre-release. Weird thing. Though the publisher said the author wanted it placed right here. You know, in the store." You look down. The author's name, Ta Noir. You open to the dedication page for the man who documented justice and forgot what it cost him. There's a note tucked between pages 112 and 113. You weren't sleepwalking. You were waiting. And beneath it, you said he deserved it. Too. You rush home. Open the drawer. Still no glove. Still no key. But there's something else now. A tape recorder. You press play. Your own voice. Simon Roth is a liability. If the system won't take him, someone has to. A pause. A woman's voice. Hers. Will you remember this? You know. That's the point. You rewind and play it again. And again. It was never about the truth. It was about control. What if you've been the suspect all along? What if this was never her confession? What if it was yours? The therapist's notes go missing. You never thought you'd come back here. The clinic smells the same antiseptic and cinnamon-scented tissues, like they're trying to sweeten trauma. You recognize the front desk assistant. She doesn't recognize you. That's good. You ask for records under a pseudonym. You remember her using one's Walter, Celine. The receptionist types, squints, clicks, then frowns. "I'm sorry. The file's restricted." Looks like it was flagged. Legal hold. You lean in. Flagged by who? She hesitates. You'll have to speak to administration. But good luck. Half the staff left after that patient. Something about security breaches. You leave your number and walk out. But you already know you're not going to get anything official. So you go to someone unofficial. Dr. Galen. He was the clinic's trauma specialist before they put him on sabbatical. Burnout, they said. You suspect something darker. You find him in a tiny house near the edge of the city, surrounded by wind chimes and unfinished wood carvings. He looks older than his file photo. Like the years didn't pass, they dragged. He knows why you've come before you speak. She told me someone would come. He says, eyes haunted, but I never expected it to be you. You blink, you remember me. Of course, he says, you were the one who recommended the facility, said she needed somewhere quiet. Did I? He nods slowly. Yes, you signed the intake form yourself. He disappears into the back room, returns with a leather notebook. It's half burned, edges curled like dead leaves. It's all I could save, he says. You flip it open. There are sketches, strange ones. A staircase that leads to a mirror. A face split down the middle. A knife with two shadows. Then a note, dated 3 weeks before Simon's death. He comes in dreams, but they aren't mine. Another. He taught me how to forget. Another. He said it wasn't murder if no one remembered it happening. Your name is never used, but the handwriting is unmistakable. Yours? You close the book. Doctor. Galen watches you like someone observing a fire, unsure if it's warming the house or about to burn it down. She called you the editor. He says, She said you rewrote her memory until she forgot the pain. You swallow hard. She accused Rod, said he erased people. Galen's mouth curls into a bitter smile. She was describing you. You want to argue, but the words die in your throat because you knew, but pretended you didn't. You stare at the final page. It's a drawing of a house. Your house, the window, your bedroom, the same angle as the photo of you sleeping. Beneath it, scrawled like a child learning to write, I only visit when the door is already open. You stumble back, notebook clutched to your chest. Your phone vibrates. A voicemail, no number. You hit play. First, silence, then her voice. I gave you the knife, but you already had the motive. You can stop digging now. The grave is big enough for both of us. The message ends, and then, faintly, something else plays, slowed down, twisted. You listen again. It's the scream, the one from that night. Only now, it sounds a lot like you. The victim's voice in the static. You didn't think it was possible to fear your own voice, but the scream keeps replaying in your head, stretched like taffy, distorted by memory or guilt, maybe both, and deep inside the layers of it, there's a shape, not a sound, a shape, your shape. You sit in your living room, blinds drawn tight, listening to old security footage pulled from the building across from Roth's apartment. It's grainy, mostly useless, but in one frame, 2:43 a.m., there's a flicker, a shadow in the hall, tall, still. You freeze the image, enhance it, not because it'll help, but because it gives you the illusion of control. The figure is holding something, a knife, no, a camera. Your breath leaves your body in a slow exhale that feels like it might not return. You switch screens, go back to the police report. Audio was pulled from the smart speaker in Roth's home. Most of its ambient traffic noise, music, silence. Then, at 2:44 a.m., a voice activates the system. It says a name, your name, then silence, then static. You boost the gain, scrub the hiss. At first, it's white noise, but buried in the low-end frequencies, a whisper. You isolate the sound, clean it, run it through filter after filter until the words finally emerge. Help me, don't let him win. It's Roth's voice, weak, distant, like he didn't expect to be heard. And then a pause, followed by another voice, yours. It's not about winning, it's about forgetting. You pause the playback. Your hand is trembling. The glass of water you're holding is now full of fractures. It slips, shatters, like your alibi, like your timeline, like the idea that this was ever her crime. You knew, but pretended you didn't. Everyone lies, especially the quiet ones. It was never about the truth, it was about control. You sit in the shards of glass for a minute, bleeding without noticing, because your mind is bleeding worse. A memory returns, a flash of light. Roth on his knees, you with the knife not stabbing, just holding, and her behind you, whispering something. You can't make out the words, only the feeling. Regret. You grab the recorder again, play the tape one more time, same voices. Then, a new one you don't remember hearing before, a female voice. Calm, icy. Erase this. You know how. You rewind. Erase this. You know how. You do, because that's what you've always done. You start to wonder how many times you've edited this story. You wonder if this is even the first time you've told yourself it. Then the apartment phone rings. Landline. You didn't even know it was plugged in. You answer. A whisper on the other end. There's still one photo you haven't seen. Click, silence. You drop the receiver. It hits the floor like a gunshot. You turn to the wall behind your desk. You've covered it in clippings, notes, photos, but one of them is new, pinned under the rest. You peel it free. It's not Roth, it's you, staring directly at the camera. And in the corner of the frame, a mirror. In the reflection, her smiling. But the smile isn't hers, it's yours. The candle that never burned out. You haven't slept. You keep replaying the voices in your head. Roth's plea, your own answer, her whisper. You write them down, hoping they look less real in ink. They don't. If anything, they feel etched. You return to the crime scene. Roth's apartment is still sealed with yellow tape, but you've never cared much for barriers. You're inside within seconds. Your keycard still works. You tell yourself it's leftover clearance from the investigation, but deep down you know the truth. You never lost access because you never really left. The apartment is cleaner than you remember. Not police cleaned, someone lived here after. The coffee table's been wiped, but you can still see the faint outline of a photograph that once sat there. It's gone now. Everything is, except for the candle. It sits on the windowsill, tall and unnervingly still. A single white taper in a glass holder, burned nearly to the base. You reach toward it, still warm. The crime happened over a week ago. No candle should still be warm. You glance around the apartment. There are no signs of matches, no lighter, no wax strips. You touch the wick. It's soft, pliable. It never went out. You stare at the flame and see things, not just in the reflection of the glass, but behind your eyes. Scenes you buried, edits you made to memory. You remember Roth sitting there, hands bound, not by rope, but by choice. He didn't fight. He watched the flame too, and he said, "I knew it would be you." You said nothing. She stood beside you, not commanding, not afraid, simply present, like she had waited for this moment longer than either of you. She handed you something. The stiletto. You gripped it, not because you wanted to, but because it was time. Back in the apartment now. The mirror above the mantel tilts slightly downward, like it's been watching the candle too. You walk toward it. Look, and the reflection doesn't make sense. You're standing still, but in the glass. Your reflection leans forward, eyes locked, mouth forming words you can't hear. Then a whisper, so faint you feel it more than hear it. Don't you remember how it ends? You stumble back, breath caught. You knew, but pretended you didn't. Everyone lies, especially the quiet ones. It was never about the truth. It was about control. The candle sputters suddenly. Just once. You look again. There's something burned into the wax at the base, just visible now as it cools. A single word, etched like a signature. Again, you take the candle, wrap it carefully in a cloth. Your phone buzzes. A new text from the same number. You lit it. You made the promise. Now finish it. You feel your knees go weak because the promise. It wasn't justice. It wasn't revenge. It was silence. You walk back to the door and realize something is wrong. The lock. It's melted. Not broken. Not picked. Melted. Like the room never wanted you to leave. Her motive wasn't hate. You return to the interrogation footage, hoping to catch something you missed. You've seen the clip of her confession dozens of times, but this time, you watch her hands. They move slowly, deliberately. She isn't restless. She isn't afraid. She's remembering, or reciting. I didn't kill him out of hate. She says, hate is reactive. This wasn't that. This was math. A balancing of the scale. The detective Keller. You remember him now? Leans in. So you're saying it was justice? She smiles. It's soft, almost pitying. I'm saying it was inevitable. You pause the tape. That word, inevitable. You've said it before. You don't remember when, but you remember how it felt coming out of your mouth, like surrender wrapped in intellect. You rewind. She says something else, barely audible. He left things behind. He wanted to be caught. He just needed the right hands. What did she mean by the right hands? Your hands. A folder sits on your desk now. It wasn't there an hour ago. Or maybe it was, and your mind wouldn't let you see it. You open it slowly. Inside an ethics report. Dated 7 years ago. Signed by you. Subject, Simon Roth. The words hit like a punch. This subject displays exceptional capacity to manipulate narrative structures within memory. Dangerous, recommending neutralization. Neutralization. You read it again, hoping for context that doesn't exist. You signed it. There's a photo, paperclip to the file. It's Roth, not dead, not smiling, sitting on a bench, reading a book. The back is labeled Observation Day 11. No deviations. There's a second sheet beneath it, handwritten. Target becoming unstable. Suggest initiation of phase closure. Initials at the bottom are nouveau. You stare at the words. This wasn't a murder. It was a procedure, and you were part of it. You try to remember what phase closure means. It's buried, part of something you swore to forget. But it comes back in flickers, redacted files, wiped subjects. A phrase from a long-forgotten manual. When memory becomes threat, make truth optional. You close your eyes and try to breathe. You knew, but pretended you didn't. Everyone lies, especially the quiet ones. It was never about the truth. It was about control. You grab your notes, flip to the scribbled sketch from a journal, the staircase leading into a mirror, a symbol, not of descent, of recursion. How many times has this happened? Not this murder, not Roth, you. How many times have you rewritten your role? How many times has she walked into a station, sat down, and confessed each time the story tweaks? Each time you forget a little more. Each time the candle burns a little longer, you walk into your bathroom, look into the mirror. Your reflection blinks twice. You don't. You lean in, watch, then you speak. Why me? And your reflection answers, because you volunteered. A second body is discovered. It hits the news at 2:06 a.m. or so, buried deep in the crime ticker, almost like someone didn't want it found. Unidentified male found in River District Storage Facility. Victim bears similar wound to Simon Roth. You stare at the screen. Second victim, same city, same stab pattern, same eerie silence, but no press conference, no leaks, not even a name. You head to the morgue. The tech at the front desk is dozing with earbuds in. You flash your old badge surprisingly. It still works. He waves you through without looking up. The new body lies in drawer 42B. You pull it open. Male, mid-40s, wiry build, eyes open, expression peaceful, almost serene. Same wound, a single, surgical slice to the abdomen. No signs of struggle. You check the toe tag. John Doe, found C5 storage facility. Locker 12. Your stomach knots. C5. Again. You visited C5. Locker 12 was locked. Rusted shut. You never opened it. You didn't even ask why it was there. You run your fingers through the man's hair, not because you need to, but because of a familiar instinct. You're looking for a scar, You find it behind the ear, the same spot you have one, a clean line, surgically closed, implant site. You knew, but pretended you didn't. You step back, breath shallow. The tech wanders in, blinking at you. Hey, you're the guy who signed out the Roth photo. Right. You freeze. What couple days ago? You said you were updating the file for internal archive. Signed CV on the log sheet. You shake your head. I never. But your voice falters. You know what he'll say next. Don't you? She looked like she'd been here before. You check the locker log from the body's evidence bag. There's a key taped to the back of the tag. Same engraving. C5 basement. Everything loops. You return to the facility. The same elevator. The same chill. Locker 12 yields this time. Inside a box labeled only memory fog's last cycle. You don't open it? Not yet, because something scrawled across the inside wall of the locker. In marker. Black and frantic. If you're reading this, it didn't work. A second line beneath it. Newer. Almost pleading. Please let it work. This time, you run. Back to your apartment. Back to your board of clippings and photos and pins. You rearrange everything. You line up the timelines. Roth's death. The second body. Your missing time. And you see it. Every 7 years. A murder. A confession. A missing file. A single burned out candle. A cycle. You check the drawer under your desk. Inside a notebook you don't remember writing in. You flip to the back. One phrase. Over and over. Don't trust what you remember. And beneath it, the twist of the knife. She only confesses when you start to remember. You stare at the second body. It's not random. It's not escalation. It's a trigger. Because someone, maybe her, knew you were waking up again. She left you another body to make sure the guilt would follow. And the worst part, you thank her. You find the watch you buried. It's in the kitchen drawer. The one you never open. The one where old batteries go to die and expired coupons crumble into dust. You're looking for aspirin. You find the watch instead. Black leather strap. Cracked face. Frozen hands. Tenol. M. The time of Roth's murder. You hold it like it might shatter. Or scream. But it does neither. It just sits there in your palm like it never left. Like it never touched the dirt. Because you remember burying it. You remember the shovel. The cold. The way the earth didn't want to give. You remember pressing it into the ground like a confession too loud to say out loud. But here it is, untouched, still ticking, because now it works. The second hand jumps once, then again. You stare as it counts off seconds, like they still matter, like time isn't already broken. You knew, but pretended you didn't. Everyone lies, especially the quiet ones. It was never about the truth. It was about control. You opened the back of the watch. You used to keep something inside it, a folded piece of paper. It's still there, unfolded. It reads, if you're reading this, it means you didn't stay buried. It's your handwriting, but the ink is darker, fresher, recent. Another note is wedged behind it, typed, smaller font. Ask her about the staircase. She won't lie. She never lies. That was your job. You check the watch's serial number. It's not your watch. It's hers. The same one she wore the night she walked into the station. The one you thought you lost when you found the glove instead. And now you're starting to remember what that night really was. You weren't covering up a crime. You were covering your agreement. An old deal. One neither of you could speak aloud, but both signed in memory. You think of the phrase again, face closure. It wasn't about Roth. It was about you. about ensuring your mind wouldn't fracture beneath the truth, about crafting the lie gently enough that you'd keep believing it. You sit down at the table. The watch ticks. Tick, tick, tick. Each second feels louder, closer, like footsteps coming down the stairs. You open your laptop, check your email, a new message. Subject time's up. Come to the mirror. Attached a photo. It's you, standing outside your childhood home. You don't remember going there. You don't remember anyone taking the picture, but you remember the staircase inside. You remember what's at the top. Not a room, not a door, a mirror. The first place you learn to lie to yourself. You close the laptop, pocket the watch. The time is still 3:17 a.m. You know it's not real, but the moment you open the door, the world outside feels like it is. Rain, fog, and the exact chill you remember from the night you buried the truth. But this time, you're not walking away from the grave. You're walking straight into it. A child's drawing matches the scene. You arrive at the old house just past midnight. It's quiet in that suspicious way, like the silence is watching you. The porch creaks under your weight. You know exactly which board to avoid, but you step on it anyway. Some ghosts deserve to know you're here. Inside, everything is covered in sheets. Furniture, mirrors, memories, but it's not abandonment, it's preservation. Like someone knew you'd come back eventually and wanted to keep the set intact. You find the staircase easily. Every creak is in the same place it was 20 years ago. You don't need light. You move by memory. At the top, the hallway opens like a wound. And at the end, behind the last door on the right, the mirror. Not just any mirror. The mirror. The one you looked into the day you forgot what really happened in this house. You put your hand on the knob. Turn, but stop. Something stuck under the door. A sheet of paper. Crumpled. Faintly torn. You kneel down and pull it free. A child's drawing. Crayon on newsprint. The lines are jagged but deliberate. It shows two people standing over a third who lies crumpled on the ground. Red scribbles where the stomach should be. One of the standing figures holds a knife. The other holds a camera. You're not sure which one is you. In the top right corner, in shaky child handwriting, he deserved it. On the back a name, Clara Voltor, age 6. You remember her now, not as an adult, as a child, not a witness, not an accomplice, a survivor. You found her after he was done, before she forgot. You helped her forget. You told yourself it was mercy, but it was management, control. You taught her how to forget, just like you taught yourself. You hear a door creak. From inside the room, you rise slowly, heart thudding like a drum inside a sealed box. You open the door. It's empty. The mirror faces you. No dust, no cracks, no reflection, just a blank sheet of black glass. Then a flicker, a shape, you, standing in Roth's apartment, camera in one hand, knife in the other, and Clara, age 6, drawing something in the corner. You step closer. The mirror warps, swirls, and now it shows the present. You in the hallway, watch in your pocket, glove missing, mind unraveling. You whisper, "What did I promise you?" The mirror answers with a whisper in your own voice to protect her from becoming you. You knew, but pretended you didn't. Everyone lies, especially the quiet ones. It was never about the truth. It was about control. You kneel down and hold the drawing like it's a contract, because it is. And it's time you kept your end. The mirror lies to you. Now, you stay kneeling in front of the mirror far too long. The glass keeps shifting. Images bloom and vanish like bruises on the surface. You watch yourself age in reverse, then fast forward, expressions changing, eyes darkening. You place the drawing on the floor and rise. The mirror reflects nothing. Not the hallway, not the door, not you. You wave your hand in front of it, still nothing. Then slowly, it begins to reflect someone else. A woman. She stands behind you. Except when you turn, there's no one there. You look back at the glass. She's still there. Clara Waltor. Older now. Face calm. Emotionless. Her hands are bare. She raises one finger and points directly at you. Then the mirror fogs. Your breath catches. Words begin to form in the condensation backwards, so you can only read them from her side. You said it was mercy. You step back because you remember the real promise now. It wasn't to protect her. It was to erase her, not kill, not destroy. Just make the world forget her like the others. You were good at that. One more mind pushed off the ledge into silence. One more victim dissolved in the fog of maybe it didn't happen. She begged you to believe her. You did. Then you told her it would be easier to let it go. You told her that if she couldn't live with the memory, she didn't have to. And she let you do it. The watch ticks in your pocket. 3:17 a.m. Again. You reach out to the glass. Your hand passes through. No resistance. No temperature. Just dark. You step forward. Just one pace. Suddenly, you're in Roth's apartment again. But it's wrong. The colors are too muted. The shadows don't move like they should. Everything feels distant, like you're watching from inside a snow globe. The candle is still burning. The table is still clean. Roth is sitting in the chair across from you. Alive. He's smiling. Hello again, he says. Voice syrupy. Back to rewrite me one more time. You try to speak. Can't. He holds up the knife. You expect him to lunge. He places it gently on the table between you, then gestures to the camera on the floor. Go ahead. Make your edits. The mirror behind him reflects something else entirely. A room full of shelves, and on each one, a copy of you, each with a different ending, a different lie. One weeps, one bleeds, one laughs, one rots. You back away from Roth, but he's not following. You know what I learned about people like you, he says. You don't fear consequences. You fear clarity. You'd rather live in fog than face the edge. You whisper, why me? He shrugs. Because you were willing. You wanted to forget. I just gave you the reason. He stands. You've got one edit left. One last cut. He walks into the mirror, disappears, and you're alone. Again, you stare at the table, at the knife. You knew, but pretended you didn't. Everyone lies, especially the quiet ones. It was never about the truth. It was about control. You pick up the knife, and this time, there's no blood, just reflection. The blade shows your face, and behind your eyes, something stirs. The victim's final call was to you. You return to your apartment before dawn, unsure if it's still the same world on this side of the mirror. Everything is quieter, flatter, like the background hum of reality has been turned down. You check your phone out of habit, but this time you scroll to something you've avoided. Call logs. The night Roth died. There it is. Incoming call. 3:17 a.m. Caller. Simon Roth. Duration 0004. Unanswered. You never heard the ring. You listen to the voicemail, even though the log says there isn't one. But there is. Your phone has a folder you didn't create, labeled Vault. It asks for a passcode. Your hands move before your mind catches up. You enter the numbers etched on the back of the watch. The folder opens. Inside one audio file, time stamped 17A Ngem You press play. A soft rustle. Breathing. Then Roth's voice. I was wrong. A pause. A longer breath. She remembered. Another pause. And she's not alone this time. Click. The message ends. You lower the phone slowly, like it's heavier now. The same weight as the watch. As the silence in this apartment, he called you. Not as a plea, as a warning. She remembered, and she's not alone. You knew, but pretended you didn't. Everyone lies, especially the quiet ones. It was never about the truth. It was about control. You pull up your old notes from the archive, where you once mapped Roth's interference cases. People he was rumored to have discredited, broken, erased. There are 10 names on the list, all victims, except one, C. Waltor. You were assigned to her recovery. That's what the files say. But your journal tells a different story. You didn't guide her through healing. You taught her how to forget, because forgetting was safer. For her, for the system, for you. But now she remembers, and that makes her dangerous. You pour yourself a drink. It tastes like metal. A moment later, a notification pops up on your screen. Incoming call, unknown ID. You let it ring. Then, voicemail. Another voice, hers, older, steady, clear. You lied about mercy. You lied about the system. But the worst lie, a pause, Ushte, was that you thought I'd stay buried with the rest of them. Then, check the photo album. Click. You hesitate. Then go to your bookshelf. Bottom shelf. Dust covered. You pull out an album you haven't opened in a decade. Mostly because you didn't remember owning it. Inside photos of old cases, training sessions, ceremonies, but tucked into the back sleeve, one photo, the original, the very first image taken after Roth's murder. Except this time, you're not just in the background. You're centered, holding the knife, looking into the lens, and behind you Clara, as a child, standing in the doorway, watching everything, eyes wide, but not in fear, in clarity. You drop the album. Suddenly, the sound of the watch grows louder. Tick, tick, tick. You check the time. Still to Antina, M. Even now, especially now, you stare at your reflection in the window. It stares back this time, and it asks, what if the victim wasn't him? The woman recants, but not everything. The news hits at noon. Clara Waltor has withdrawn her confession. She's issued a statement through an anonymous intermediary. No media appearance, no courtroom dramatics, just a single page, faxed to the precinct and already leaked online. You read it 3 times, each word a blade. I did not kill Simon Roth. I said I did because someone had to say it. Someone had to give the story an ending. But that was never my truth. That was his. He built a lie so complex. It needed a confession to make sense. The lie was this, that silence equals safety. She signs it, B, nothing more. You knew, but pretended you didn't. Everyone lies, especially the quiet ones. It was never about the truth. It was about control. The precincts in chaos. The detectives who never really understood her now whisper about reopening the case. You don't speak, you don't move, because you understand something. They never will. She isn't withdrawing from the truth. She's stepping out of the story. You drive to the hospital where she was supposedly held during the therapy phase 7 years ago. The receptionist glances at her screen and frowns. There's no record of her. Never was. You expected that. But the security guard by the elevator gives you a second look. You were here once. Right, he asks. Didn't think you'd come back. You play dumb. He leans in. That woman, they moved her to C block. Said it was for her own good. But she never came out. Not through the front doors. Anyway, C block. Containment. Not treatment. You find the wing shuttered, sealed behind rusted gates. But taped to the wall beside the door is something that shouldn't be there. A single Polaroid. Clara, seated in a white chair, staring into the camera. Her eyes too clear. Her hands clasped. At the bottom, scribbled in marker. He said this would help me forget. But forgetting only works if you stay asleep. The door to the wing creaks open. No key, no guard, just open. You walk inside. Every hallway is empty. Lights flicker like nervous ticks. You find her room. Room 13 by instinct. Inside bolt only a chair, a mirror, and a tape recorder. Another gift. You hit play. Your voice. Again. We're not erasing you. Clara, we're helping you build a new version of yourself. One that can survive this. Then hers. Quiet. No. You're building a version of you. One that can look in the mirror and not shatter. Then silence. Then a final whisper. You didn't protect me. You protected your story. The tape ends. You don't move for a long time. You stare at the mirror. It reflects you now. But your image looks tired, outdated, like someone playing a part too long. You see the timeline finally, the edits, the cycles, the resets. Each time Roth dies, each time she confesses, each time you remember just enough to be dangerous, and each time the system kicks in your system and you wipe yourself clean. But she didn't recant to escape. She recanted to wake you up, because this time the edit didn't hold. The watch ticks louder in your pocket. A familiar chime echoes from the hallway. Footsteps, not yours, and not alone. A familiar glove in the evidence bag. You follow the footsteps down the hall, not because you want to, but because they're calling you. Like echoes from a life you forgot how to live. Each footfall syncs with the tick of the watch in your pocket. Step, tick, step, tick. You reach the records room, or what's left of it. Cabinets overturned, files scattered like fallen birds, and on the table in the center, an evidence bag. Your name is on the tag, but not as recipient, as suspect. You unzip it carefully. Inside one black glove, yours. The leather is scuffed along the thumb where you used to pick at the stitching. You don't have to try it on to know it would fit perfectly. But something's changed. There's something inside it. You turn it over, and a slip of paper falls out. Typed. Precise. This is where you stopped remembering last time. You glance around the room like someone's watching. They're not. Not from here. You pick up the second item in the bag, a silver pen recorder. Engraved initials R. Simon Roth's. You press play. Static at first, then your voice. Calm. Measured. Clinical. Subject demonstrates high resistance to reversion. Timeline loop remains intact. Memory wall stable. For now. Then Clara's voice. Younger, raw. You said I wouldn't feel it anymore. You won't, you respond. As long as you don't wake up. The recording ends. The watch reads 3:17. Again. Always. You slide the glove onto your right hand. It fits. Of course. Your breath fogs in front of you, even though the room isn't cold. You step back, your shoulder bumping an old file cabinet. A folder falls. You kneel to retrieve it. The label, Operation Palimpsest. You haven't heard that name in years. Not since they shut down the program. Not since you shut it down. You open the file. Pages of blacked out paragraphs, redacted lines, blurred photographs, but one page is clear. A diagram of you. Underneath, primary architect. Redacted. Subject, alias, editor. You knew, but pretended you didn't. Everyone lies, especially the quiet ones. It was never about the truth. It was about control. You realize now that Roth wasn't the first subject. You were not the investigator, the prototype, the one they used to test the limits of forgetfulness. And when you became too unpredictable, they assigned Clara to mirror you, to reflect what you couldn't see. But she saw everything. And when she started remembering, you called it malfunction, you called it trauma, you called it unreliable. You made her forget, but she always came back, because this wasn't her loop. It was yours. You put the file down. The glove on your hand feels heavier. You feel it now, not dread, not guilt, familiarity. You've been here before, and you're about to make a choice again. Keep editing, or finally let the truth stand. Your phone buzzes. A photo. You, standing in this exact room, right hand raised, gloved, and in the mirror behind you, Clara, holding the camera, and this time, she's the one asking the questions. Someone else knows the truth. The photo won't stop vibrating in your hand. Not the phone, the photo. You stare at it again. The image of you. Glove raised, like a man taking an oath in a courtroom built out of lies. Clara behind you. Camera aimed, eyes unblinking. She's not hiding anymore. She's documenting. You, your fingers twitch, itching to delete it, to drag it to some digital oubliette where uncomfortable things go to die. But you don't, because someone else already knows, and they want you to know they know. You open your laptop. There's a blinking icon in the corner, a file named The Journal You Left Behind. You never saved it, never wrote it. As far as you remember, you click. It opens to a single page. Black background, white text, a stream of consciousness confession, typed in your voice, but written like it was trying not to be seen. You promised you wouldn't go back, but here you are, scratching at the edges of your own design. Clara was never unstable. She was consistent. You were the variable. They told you that forgetting would protect you, but it wasn't protection. It was erasure, and you helped them do it. Again and again, you scroll. One final paragraph, bolded. If you're reading this, the loop is breaking. Someone else remembers, and they're not interested in mercy anymore. You minimize the file. On instinct, you check the hallway camera feeds outside your apartment. Cam 1, empty. Cam 2, empty. Cam 3 blinks. Clara, not hiding, not knocking, just standing. You sprint to the door. She's not there. A note dangles from the handle. You said you buried the journal. You were right. You just forgot where. Back inside. You dig through your bookshelves, your floorboards, the crawl space you haven't looked in since you moved in. Nothing. Then you see it. Behind a torn poster on your wall, a tiny slit in the drywall. You tear it open with the letter opener. Inside, a leather-bound notebook. The real one. You open it. Handwriting flickers between yours and hers, like shared authorship. You see dates, drawings, ritual-like timelines. Every 7 years, a new Roth, a new scene, a new confession. Always hers, always clean, until now. One passage catches your eye. He's starting to remember without being pushed. The edit is cracking. I don't think I can keep him contained much longer. You turn the page, a map of the city. Marked locations: C5, Roth's apartment, the diner, the river, all circled in red, but one is marked in black: the Hall of Records. You circle it. Someone else knows the truth, and they've archived it. Maybe for protection, maybe as insurance, maybe just to burn it all down. You check your watch. 3:17 a. Of course, the time doesn't pass here anymore. It just waits. You grab the glove, the journal, the key from the evidence bag. You open the door. Clara's voice echoes behind your ears, calm, unwavering. This time, if you forget again, someone else will finish it. The journal. You forgot. Writing. The Hall of Records sleeps under 6 stories of concrete and silence. You stand at the entrance as dawn bleeds into the sky. The key in your pocket feels radioactive, pulling toward the lock beneath your fingers. You hesitate not from fear, but from familiarity. You've done this before. You just don't remember how it ended. The lock accepts the key like an old friend. Inside, the air is colder than night. Rows of file cabinets stretch like tombstones, each labeled with a lie someone once believed. You move past them, guided by something older than instinct. A memory, down 3 aisles, left at the red emergency light that flickers when no one's watching. At the end, a single drawer, labeled "Only Do Not Access," archived under F. You open it. Inside, a notebook wrapped in black cloth. It smells of dust, ink, and old regret. You unwrap it slowly. The journal is yours. You know that immediately, but not the you are now. The entries begin decades ago. Pages filled with observations, calculations, rituals of forgetting. Day 14. Subject: Clara Waltor resists induction. Increased dream frequency. Mirror tests inconclusive. Day 41. Roth unstable. Removed from primary narrative. Clara inserted as counterweight. Day 84. Memory loop engaged. External variables introduced to reinforce forgetfulness. Mirror protocol active. You keep flipping. Faster now. Your name appears more, then hers, then Roth's, then silence, then 1 page different ink. This journal is the needle. You are the thread. The moment you read this, the stitching begins to unravel. Below it, a single line. You didn't forget. You chose to forget. You stop breathing for a moment. Because it's true. Somewhere inside you, you always knew. Every time she confessed, it wasn't guilt. It was a gift. A breadcrumb to lead you back through your own maze. She never wanted to be free. She wanted you to be. You thought she was the subject. She was the mirror. A voice echoes in your head. Not hers, yours. The version you erased. When you create enough silence, it becomes indistinguishable from truth. You close the journal. The drawer beneath it creaks open on its own. Another item. A sealed envelope. Your name on the front. Inside a photo. It's you and Clara. Not recent. Years ago. She's laughing. You're not. But your hand is on her shoulder. Written on the back. This is the version of us they tried to erase. Don't let them. Your hands shake. Not from fear. From memory. You knew. But pretended you didn't. Everyone lies. Especially the quiet ones. It was never about the truth. It was about control. You put the journal in your coat. Turn around. And see her. Clara. Real. Present. Older. Stronger. She says nothing. You nod. She nods back. And for the first time, there's nothing left to edit. The twist isn't about her. You walk side by side. No words, no plan. Just two people who've been both weapon and wound. The city wakes slowly behind you as you approach the river. You can hear the noise of distant sirens, the cough of buses, the life of the world moving forward like none of this ever happened. But you don't walk toward it. You walk toward the water. Clara stops first, at the old ferry dock, where the system dumped its unwanted truths physically, metaphorically. This is where the first version of Roth disappeared, not in body, in record. She turns to you. Do you know what they used to call us? You nod. Artifacts. She exhales. Errors in the edit. You both stare at the river. It's quiet, but not peaceful. You reach into your coat and hand her the journal, the real one. The story ends here. You say. She shakes her head. No, it ends there. She points to the water when the story is untraceable. When no one remembers who edited what, you pause, but someone should remember. She looks at you then, and something hard softens in her eyes. They will. Not who, not when, but what. The truth always leaves residue. She takes the book and drops it in the river. You both watch it float briefly before the current pulls it down. The watch on your wrist finally ticks over. 3:18:01. Time moves again. But something's still wrong. You feel it crawling behind your eyes. A pulse. A shift. The kind that tells you someone else just woke up. You turn to Clara. What if this was never about either of us? She smiles just barely. That's the part they never want you to see. She reaches into her coat, hands you a folder. Inside a photo. It's not Roth. It's not you. It's someone else. A woman in a suit, standing in front of a lab door, clipboard in one hand, your face reflected in her sunglasses. The initials on the badge, A.S., Memory Systems, Architect. You whisper the name. She nods. She designed the loops. You just delivered them. You feel the floor of your mind buckle. The twist wasn't her confession. It wasn't Roth's death. It was the third hand that wrote the script neither of you realized you were reading from. And it's still writing. Somewhere. Clara looks at you with finality. We can't stop her, but we can step off the stage. You say nothing. Just nod. You knew, but pretended you didn't. Everyone lies, especially the quiet ones. It was never about the truth. It was about control. She turns and disappears into the morning. You stay behind. One last time. You look into the reflection in the river. It doesn't look back. It waits. And this time, you don't step away. You step through.